by thanking everyone for coming tonight, especially those who organized tonight's dinner. All of this food is really a wrestler's fantasy come true. I speak for the entire team when I say to Mrs. Blaine and Coach that we really appreciate it. I must also thank Mr. Sweeney for filming our matches all season and for making a highlight reel of the entire team. We'll really appreciate it many years from now when we show it to our two kids of our own. Tonight, we celebrate the end of another wrestling season, a special one for me since it is my last as a Dragon wrestler. I have to say that I couldn't imagine celebrating it any other way with any other people than all of you here tonight. 5 years ago, when I was a 7th grader on the modified team, I remember coming to this dinner and watching the captains as they gave their speeches. I honestly don't remember everything they said. I'd be lying if I said I did. But what I do remember is the feeling they left with me. I remember being inspired by their commitment to the sport, to wrestling. Tonight, I have several people that I'd like to acknowledge, and one of them is a former captain from that dinner 5 years ago, Rob Priest. Thank you, Coach Priest, for coming home and helping us this season. Someday, I'd love to come home and coach the Dragons like you did. Over the years, I learned a lot about wrestling during practices and in live competitions, of course, but I also learned a lot about myself from wrestling and from the people I met along the way. Wrestling taught me that life isn't fair. In spite of your best efforts, even the most of us won't win every match, or even the matches that are in the bag. But take your lessons to heart as much as you celebrate your wins, and learn something from every experience. If you don't reflect on all of it, and if you don't ask yourself, what could I have done differently, then you've learned nothing. Life isn't fair, but self-evaluation will make you better prepared and more in control for the next time. Another thing wrestling taught me is to be humble and to control my emotions. Not an easy task for a Janetta. But in a sport that's as mentally, physically, and emotionally as intense as wrestling is, filters become very necessary. Everyone will come up to you, win or lose, and say, good match. Accept the compliment graciously, no matter how well or how poorly you know you wrestled. Wrestling can be tough on the psyche, but if you lose, try to lose with dignity. And if you win, win with grace. Celebrating on the mat belittles yourself and the team you represent. For keeping me grounded and for helping me balance wrestling with all of my other activities, I'd like to thank my beautiful mother, Angela Janetta. Mom, I'd love to repay you. I told you it's hard to control our emotions. I'd love to repay you for all you sacrificed to help me succeed. But when I think about the countless hours you logged in smelly, sweaty gyms all over New York State just to watch me wrestle for a few minutes, I know I'll never be able to repay you. I always know that win, lose, or draw, your arms and your heart are always wide open and that you'll always be there when I need you. I know you're there. In fact, the only times you weren't at the edge of the mat watching me is when you were busy taking pictures for the rest of the team. Thank you, not only for being devoted to me, but being devoted to the Dragons too. Mom, you've been motivational, loving, inspirational, and supportive. In fact, the only times I can recall when you weren't supportive was when I wanted to cut too much weight. But I understand you were just being a mom. I apologize for the times that I was short and snapped at you because I was hungry. Just know that I love you more than I can ever say in this speech, and I hope to make you proud when I'm away at school. Your lessons will not fall by the wayside, but will be a foundation for who I ultimately want to become. I love you. I'd like to thank my older brother Larry and his wife, my sister Michelle, for being here tonight and for all they've taught me too. As a 2nd grader, I would watch Larry wrestle for Cornwall, and I knew I wanted to be just like him. Larry kept me clear-headed and focused on the mat. Whenever my confidence was low, he seemed to know exactly what to say to snap me out of it and make me determined to win. It was my secret wish to impress and wow him with my wrestling. Larry taught me what he knew technique-wise, but he also taught me what it means to really love someone. You see, my brother and sister Michelle are 10 years older than me, with lives of their own. And yet they somehow managed to find time to come to my matches. You both show me you love me instead of just saying it. I wouldn't be surprised to see you at my first college match, cheering me on and supporting me. To this day, I still idolize you, Larry, and I hope one day I can live a life as successful and as full as yours is. The next person I'd like to thank is my dad, Larry Janetta. I'm proud to call this man my father. Dad, I appreciate the times you spent filming my matches and discussing how I felt about each opponent. You may not know how to wrestle, but you taught me about nutrition and weightlifting to help me improve my strength and conditioning. Even after working a full day and then working overtime throughout the night while I slept, you would never back out of driving me to wrestling classes in New Jersey, even though it meant staying awake more hours than most would consider humanly possible. I have a better perspective of the world because of our long car rides back and forth from practice in New Jersey. In fact, I can honestly say our heart-to-heart discussions about life, politics, people, and the world, and the laughs we shared during those car rides will remain the fondest memories of my childhood. You are among the most selfless and hard-working men I know, and I idolize and love you. You are the pinnacle of what a father should be. If I ever become half the man you are, I'll be proud. There are other people who are not blood relatives, but who I still consider family, like Mr. Storr. Mr. Storr organized the PB wrestling team and was in many ways my first coach. He encouraged me and others like me to stick with it and keep working hard. Mr. Storr, you've been a close family friend who I consider more of an uncle than a coach. I grew up spending Friday nights with you, Mrs. Storr, Jack, and Danny, and either at your house or in our pool. Thank you for all of your support and for being a part of my life. By the way, I consider myself one of the lucky few who have seen Mr. Storr let loose on the dance floor. It's quite a sight. After Pee-wees, I wrestled modified for the one and only Coach Taylor. Mr. Taylor taught me many things, but most importantly, he taught me how to work hard, really hard. I remember specifically one practice we had to hold our arms straight and keep them there for what felt like an eternity. He taught us to fight through pain. Ever since that day, whenever I feel exhausted and I feel like I want to give up, I hear Mr. Taylor's voice in my head, encouraging me to push on. I credit him for preparing me for high school wrestling, and I can honestly say that without him, I wouldn't be the wrestler or the person I am today. Thank you for teaching me the value of perseverance, Coach. In high school, I had the immense pleasure of working with Coach Piquel. This may surprise many of you, but if it wasn't for him, I might never have wrestled at all. You see, my brother, Larry, was in Mr. Piquel's tech class, and he would screw around and drive Mr. Piquel crazy. One day, out of desperation, Mr. Piquel suggested that Larry use some of that energy on the wrestling mat. The rest is history. One of the things I valued about Coach Piquel was that after a tough match, I could always count on him to tell me the truth about how I wrestled. I loved the times when he would say, "I like your intensity." I also loved wrestling Coach Piquel for fun during and after practice. As a freshman, he would totally dominate me, but as I got older, I think I gave him a good run for his money. Mr. Piquel is a hybrid, a combination of big brother and great coach. If I wasn't blessed to have him as my coach, I would still choose him as my friend. Coach Blaine, I've looked up to you since I was a second grader wrestling Pee-wee. I simply could not wait to get to high school to wrestle for you. You gave me several gifts, but one of the greatest was confidence. I knew no matter who was on the other side of the mat, that I had the advantage, because I had you in my corner. To my fellow wrestlers, modified, JV, and varsity, pay really close attention to the man I just talked about. Don Blaine teaches you more than just how to wrestle. He teaches you how to comport yourself with grace and class, something you're going to need to do for the rest of your lives. He teaches you how to command respect without ever asking for it. Our coach is truly a model of humility and self-control, an example that I wish to emulate. It has been an honor to wrestle for you, Coach, and there is no way to express my gratitude for everything you've done for me. I will take what you have taught me, the lessons on and off the mat, with me forever. I will always be proud to tell people that I wrestled for you, Coach Blaine. Finally, I'd like to thank my fellow wrestlers. You are not just teammates, not just friends, but more like brothers to me. I feel a genuine love and affection for each of you, especially the 5 departing seniors, Tim Yergo, Ray Salas, Andrew Geis, and my co-captains Luke Zito and Sean Sweeney. We've sweat together, bled together, cried together, and laughed together. When we started as Pee-wees, there were many more kids our age. Most of them no longer wrestle. Of the 12 wrestlers that started with us in Modified, only the 6 of us are left. But that's what wrestling does. It separates wrestlers from other athletes. It requires perseverance, discipline, and the heart of a lion to commit to this sport. It has been an honor to share this journey and be a part of each other's stories. Although it saddens me that I will never wrestle again as a Cornwall Dragon, never strap up the green singlet, and never see your faces on the edge of the mat cheering me on, the memory of those times will live with me forever. We're off one path and onto a greater one. No matter what colors I wear next year, I will always be a dragon at heart. To the remaining dragon wrestlers, something to chew on. A few weeks ago, after practice had ended and everyone was gone, I stood alone in the wrestling room. The lights were off, and I stared at the 9 white empty circles. To anyone else, they're just circles. But to me, they were our desks, our workstations, where we worked hard to achieve something that mattered to us. Each circle has a story behind it, where someone finally hit the move they were working on, or 2 people laughed, or someone got hurt, but where we all grew up. That afternoon, alone in the wrestling room, I saw us in those circles, the circles we occupy, creatures of habit. Quinn and I in the center circle, Sean in the circle by the door, Luke in the corner circle, and I can go back in time and picture the wrestlers who stood in those circles, dating back to my freshman year. Wrestlers, don't take that room for granted, because it's filled with our stories. Each circle has its history, a story about the partners who practice there day after day, busting their butts to do their best to leave a lasting mark. Those mats are not just plastic and foam, they're hallowed ground, sacred, waiting for your stories. Good luck to all of you next year. It's been an honor to wrestle for Cornwall and to be your captain. Sorry, which one was the second?